The massive viewing screen in the Elder Council's chamber showed a small blue-green planet spinning slowly in space. 12 ancient beings watched it with growing interest, their eyes fixed on the unusual energy readings coming from its orbit. What caught their attention wasn't the planet itself, but the metal objects moving around it in careful patterns. "Another young race reaching for the stars," said First Elder Anton, his gleaming white robes shifting as he moved closer to the screen. But these energy readings are different. The Council had watched thousands of species take their first steps into space. Most followed the same path: energy shields, plasma drives, and light-based weapons. But these humans, as they called themselves, had chosen a stranger road. "Send the scout ships," ordered Second Elder Rex. "Let's see what these newcomers have built." 3 sleek vessels, each wrapped in layers of pure energy and practically invisible to most scanning systems, moved through space toward Earth. The scouts expected to find the usual primitive attempts at space travel. Instead, they found something that made them pause. Huge metal ships moved between Earth and its moon. Unlike the elegant vessels of the elder races, these were blocky, armored things bristling with what looked like primitive projectile weapons and covered in radio dishes and sensor arrays. The scouts watched as these ships practiced complex maneuvers, using their main engines and smaller thrusters to dance through space with surprising grace. "They're warships," reported the lead scout, "but unlike any we've seen before. No energy shields, no plasma weapons. They're using physical armor and kinetic weapons." The council chamber filled with murmurs. Physical armor, kinetic weapons. These were things most races abandoned centuries before reaching the stars. The elders had assumed such technologies were dead ends on the path to true space travel. Captain James Wilson stood on the bridge of the UES Thunder, Earth's newest battleship, watching his crew prepare for another patrol. The Thunder was humanity's pride. 800 meters of layered titanium armor, railguns, missile pods, and point defense systems. They had built her to survive anything space could throw at them, from micrometeorites to solar flares. "Captain," called out his sensor officer, "we're picking up some strange readings. 3 objects, nearly invisible to our standard scans, but the new quantum sensors are seeing something." Wilson smiled. The quantum sensors were brand new, designed to detect things that shouldn't be detectable. "Show me," he ordered. The main screen lit up with 3 faint outlines. They were beautiful ships, almost artistic in their design, but Wilson's trained eye saw their weaknesses immediately. They had no visible armor, no point defense systems, and their engine output suggested they relied entirely on their energy fields for protection. "Send standard greetings in all formats," Wilson ordered. "Let's see who our visitors are." The Elder Council watched the exchange with growing interest. The human ship had detected their scouts, something that shouldn't have been possible with primitive technology. And now they were broadcasting a greeting that showed both military precision and diplomatic courtesy. "We should make contact," said Third Elder Maya. "These humans, they're different. They're building their future on foundations we abandoned long ago, and they're making it work." The council voted, and soon their most diplomatic vessel was on its way to Earth. They expected to teach these humans about proper space technology, to guide them toward the correct path of energy-based systems and shield technology. But as they watched the UES Thunder's powerful engines push it through a complex patrol pattern, some of the younger council members wondered if perhaps they had become too set in their ways. Maybe these humans, with their primitive metal ships and physical weapons, had something to teach them instead. The stage was set for humanity's first official contact with the elder races, but neither side truly understood how different their approaches to space travel and warfare really were, or how these differences would soon reshape the galaxy itself. High Commander Axon paced in his private chamber aboard the Elder command ship, Star Whisperer. The walls glowed with soft blue light, but his face showed only darkness. On his display screen, images of Earth's metal warships played in a loop. Each viewing made his anger grow stronger. These humans, he growled to his officers, they build their ships like fortresses. No elegance, no proper understanding of space technology. They're dangerous. His second-in-command stepped forward. Dangerous, sir. They're centuries behind us. Their ships don't even have energy shields. Axon stopped pacing and pointed at the screen. Look closer. Their ships aren't primitive. They're different. Those thick armor plates could resist our light-based weapons. Those spinning turrets could track our fastest ships. And those projectile weapons, he paused, his face growing darker. They could punch right through our energy shields if we're not careful. The meeting room fell silent. The elder races had used energy-based technology for so long that they'd forgotten about physical attacks. Their shields could stop plasma bolts and laser beams perfectly, but no one had tested them against simple metal objects moving at high speeds. Meanwhile, on Earth's moon base, Admiral Robert Parker reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The diplomatic meetings with the Elder Council had gone well, but something felt wrong. Too many alien warships were moving near Earth's outer colonies. They're positioning themselves like they're preparing for war, he told his staff, pointing at the star map. See these patterns? Classic encirclement strategy. One of his officers spoke up. But sir, they're supposed to be peaceful. They're the most advanced races in known space. Parker shook his head. Advanced doesn't always mean wise, and some of them seem afraid of us. Afraid of our ships. In the Elder Council chamber, the debate had turned heated. Most council members wanted peace with Earth, but Axon's faction grew stronger each day. These humans build weapons first and ask questions later. Axon argued, their ships are designed for war. Look at their colonies, each one protected by these metal monsters. They're preparing to expand, to challenge us. Third Elder Maya stood up against him. They build strong ships because space is dangerous. They chose a different path than us, but that doesn't make them wrong. But Axon's words found willing ears among those who feared change. Many elder races had grown comfortable with their place in the galaxy. The idea of a young race doing things differently scared them. Back on the UES Thunder, Captain Wilson received new orders. His ship and 3 others would patrol the outer colonies. They'd heard nothing official from the elder races, but Earth's leaders wanted their best ships ready, just in case. Run full system checks, Wilson ordered his crew. I want every weapon, every sensor, and every engine working perfectly. His crew worked quickly and quietly. They'd all seen the reports about alien ships moving closer to their colonies. The Thunder's massive rail guns were loaded with tungsten rounds. Her missile bays were full. Her armor was tested and strong. In his private quarters, Wilson looked at a picture of Earth taken from space. The elder races thought they were primitive because they built tough ships with physical weapons. But humans had learned hard lessons from their own history. In space, like on Earth, the most elegant solution wasn't always the best one. As both sides prepared for what might come, the stars watched silently. Humanity's path to the stars had been different from the elder races, and soon everyone would learn whether different meant dangerous. The peace that had lasted for thousands of years among the elder races was about to be tested by humanity's metal warships, and no one knew exactly what would happen next. The attack came at Earth's farthest colony on Titan Base. 3 of High Commander Axon's warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their energy shields glowing bright against the darkness of space. They expected an easy victory. What they found was the UES Thunder and her sister ship, UES Storm, waiting in Saturn's shadow. Enemy ships detected, reported Thunder's sensor officer. 3 vessels, elder race design. They're charging weapons. Captain Wilson stood calmly on his bridge. Send the warning message once. If they fire, they get what they asked for. The elder ships ignored the warning. Their commander, sure of victory, launched the first attack. Brilliant beams of energy shot across space toward the human ships. But Wilson was ready. Evasive pattern delta. Point defense to full. Show them what these metal monsters can do. The thunder and storm moved like dancers in space, their heavy armor easily absorbing the few hits that landed. The Elder ship's energy weapons, designed to fight other energy-based ships, struggled to cause serious damage to the thick layers of composite armor. "They're not even denting us, sir," reported Thunder's damage control officer. "Our armor is holding strong." Wilson allowed himself a small smile. "Main batteries, target the lid ship. Fire when ready." The Thunder's massive rail guns roared to life. Each one fired chunks of tungsten the size of cars, accelerated to incredible speeds. The Elder ship's commanders watched in horror as the primitive projectiles slammed into their energy shields. The first shot cracked the lead ship's shields. The second shot shattered them completely. The third shot tore through the unprotected hull, splitting the elegant vessel in half. "Impossible," shouted the Elder commander of the second ship. "Their weapons are just metal objects. How can they?" His words were cut off as the storm's missile barrage overwhelmed his ship's defenses. The Elder races had forgotten about the simple power of kinetic weapons. Their shields could stop energy, but they couldn't handle the sheer physical force of Thunder's attacks. The third Elder ship tried to retreat, but the human vessels had positioned themselves carefully. Every escape route forced them to come closer to either Thunder or Storm. "They're running scared, sir," said Thunder's tactical officer. "Should we pursue?" Wilson shook his head. "No need. Their course will bring them right into our firing solution in 3, 2, 1. Both human ships fired together. Rail gun rounds and missiles crossed paths in space, creating a web of destruction. The Elder ship couldn't escape. Its shields flickered and died under the assault, and moments later, it joined its companions as floating debris. In the Elder Council chamber, the battle recordings caused an uproar. Many had expected the humans to be easily defeated. Instead, their primitive weapons had destroyed 3 advanced warships without taking significant damage. "Those metal ships," whispered First Elder Anton. "They're not primitive at all. They're just different, and we never prepared for different." Back on Thunder, Wilson sent a message to Earth Command. "First engagement complete. 3 enemy ships destroyed. No significant damage to Thunder or Storm. Request permission to maintain guard position over Titan base." The reply came quickly. "Permission granted." "Well done, Thunder. Show them why humanity believes in steel and courage." As Wilson's crew began their post-battle checks, he looked at the debris floating nearby. The Elder races had called their ships primitive, had looked down on their thick armor and physical weapons. Now they knew better. Humanity's metal horrors had proven themselves in battle, and this was just the beginning. In the darkness of space, other Elder race ships were already moving, drawn to the battle site like moths to a flame. The first blood had been spilled, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Thomas stood in Earth's main fleet command center, watching as hundreds of dots moved across the giant screen. Each dot was a ship, and the blue ones were Earth's vessels, now moving out in force. After the victory at Titan base, Earth wasn't waiting for more attacks. They were taking the fight to the enemy. "All ships report ready," his communications officer announced. "The Thunder and Storm are leading Battle Group 1. The Lightning and Avalanche are with Battle Group 2. The Admiral nodded. Earth was unleashing its full naval power. 200 warships, each one built with thick armor and loaded with weapons that the Elder races had forgotten about centuries ago. "Begin Operation Metal Storm," Thomas ordered. "Show them what Earth's fleet can really do." The human ships moved in groups, using tricks the Elder races never thought about. They hid behind planets, using gravity to speed up their attacks. They scattered clouds of small metal pieces in space, creating areas that enemy ships couldn't pass through without damage. Most importantly, they used their electronic warfare systems to confuse the enemy sensors. On board the Elder command ship, Light of Dawn, Commander Axon couldn't believe what he was seeing. His beautiful energy-shielded ships were being outsmarted by these brutal metal vessels. The humans weren't fighting fair. They were fighting to win. "They're everywhere. One of his officers shouted, "Their electronic attacks are blinding our sensors. We can't target them properly." Axon watched as a group of human ships appeared from behind a moon, their rail guns already firing. His ship's energy shields, designed to stop laser beams and plasma bolts, couldn't handle the physical force of massive metal rounds hitting them at high speed. The Thunder led its battle group straight through the enemy formation. Enemy energy beams splashed against its thick armor, leaving only scorch marks. The human ships had been built to take damage and keep fighting, while the Elder ships relied too much on their shields. "Direct hit to our port side," reported Thunder's damage control officer. "Armor is holding. All weapons still operational." Captain Wilson smiled. This was why humans built their ships tough. "Return fire. All batteries." The space around them lit up as rail guns fired and missiles launched. 3 Elder ships disappeared in balls of fire. Their elegant designs were no match for human weapons. Back in the command center, Admiral Thomas watched as his fleet pushed forward. The Elder races had thousands of years of space experience, but they had grown too comfortable. They had forgotten that sometimes the simple solutions were the best ones. Battle Group 3 reports success. An officer called out, "They've taken control of the Thompson Station. Elder forces are retreating." Thomas nodded. The Elder races were learning hard lessons today. They were learning that humanity's primitive technology wasn't primitive at all. It was just different, and sometimes different was better. In deep space, the Lightning proved this point by ramming straight through an enemy ship's shields. The Elder races had forgotten that physical objects could pass through energy barriers if they moved fast enough. The Lightning's reinforced bow cut the enemy ship in half. "Enemy forces are pulling back in all sectors," reported the command center's tactical officer. "They're running from our metal horrors." The name made Thomas smile. Yes, that's what the Elder races called Earth's ships now. Metal horrors. To them, these armor-plated warships were nightmare creatures, breaking all their rules about how space warfare should work. As the battle ended, debris from dozens of Elder ships floated in space. Their beautiful energy shields and elegant weapons had failed against humanity's simpler but more effective technology. The galaxy was learning that humanity's path to the stars, though different, was just as valid as the Elder race's way. And the lesson wasn't over yet. This was just the beginning of humanity's response to those who had underestimated them. The Elder Council chamber had never been so quiet. On the massive display screens, they watched recordings of their defeats. Their mighty fleets, built over thousands of years, were being systematically taken apart by humanity's metal horrors. "How?" First Elder Anton asked, breaking the silence. "How did we not see this coming?" Third Elder Maya stepped forward, her eyes fixed on an image of the UES Thunder smashing through an Elder battle line. "We saw what we wanted to see. We thought our way was the only way. We were wrong." The council watched as another recording played. A human ship, badly damaged but still fighting, used its maneuvering thrusters to spin in space, bringing all its guns to bear on an Elder vessel. The Elder ship's energy shields flickered and died under the barrage of physical projectiles. "Their ships," Second Elder Rex noted. "They don't die easily. Even when damaged, they keep fighting. Ours." He gestured at the screen, where a damaged Elder ship drifted helplessly, its perfect systems disrupted by a single lucky hit. In Earth's space, more battles proved the Council's fears correct. A group of Elder ships tried to attack Earth's Mars colony. They found themselves caught in a trap of simple metal debris and hidden missile platforms. Their elegant shields couldn't stop small pieces of metal from scratching their sensors and damaging their hulls. "Enemy fleet is in disarray," reported a Mars defense officer to Admiral Thomas. "They didn't expect us to use space itself as a weapon." Thomas watched from his command center as human ships used tricks the Elder races had never considered. They hid behind debris fields, used gravity assists to gain tactical advantages, and turned off their engines to drift silently through space before attacking. Back in the council chamber, Maya showed her fellow elders something new. Look at how they use space itself. They don't fight against it like we do. They work with it. The screen showed human ships using planet's gravity to slingshot into battle positions. They showed human crews repairing battle damage while still in combat, something elder ships never needed to do because they always relied on their shields. And their weapons, another council member added. So simple, yet so effective. Physical armor that our energy weapons struggle to damage. Kinetic weapons that ignore our shields. Electronic warfare that blinds our sensors. The council watched as the UES Thunder demonstrated this again. The mighty human ship absorbed hit after hit from elder energy weapons, its thick armor scared but holding. Then it returned fire, its rail guns sending massive metal rounds through space at incredible speeds. The elder ships, designed to stop energy attacks, had no defense against simple physics. We must end this, First Elder Anton declared. Not just the fighting. We must end our own arrogance. These humans, with their primitive technology, have shown us our greatest weakness. We stopped growing. We stopped thinking of new ways to solve problems. Maya nodded. They build their ships to survive anything. They plan for failure, prepare for damage. Our ships are perfect until they aren't. One good hit, and they're helpless. The council members watched one final recording. A human ship, the UES Storm, had been badly damaged in battle. But instead of surrendering or retreating, its crew sealed off the damaged sections and kept fighting. They didn't need their ships to be perfect. They just needed them to be tough enough to survive. We called them primitive, Anton said quietly. But they understood something we forgot. Space is dangerous. It's not enough to have elegant technology. You need to be ready for anything. As the council debated their next move, humanity's metal horrors continued to prove their worth in battle after battle. The elder races were learning that their thousands of years of progress had led them down a beautiful but narrow path. Humanity had chosen a different road, and that road was now shaking the galaxy to its core. High Commander Axon stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Light. It was the pride of the Elder Fleet, 5 kilometers of pure energy mastery. He had called every remaining ship to join him for one final battle against the human metal horrors. Let them come, he told his crew. This ship has enough power to light up a small sun. Their primitive weapons cannot harm us. But the humans had built something new too. The UES Humanity's Vengeance emerged from Earth's shipyards, bigger than any human ship before it. 3 kilometers of layered armor, rail guns, missile bays, and electronic warfare systems. Captain Wilson had been chosen to command it. All hands to battle stations, Wilson ordered as his new ship moved to meet the Eternal Light. Show them what humanity's best can do. The two mighty ships approached each other near Jupiter's orbit. Around them, hundreds of smaller vessels from both sides prepared for battle. The Eternal Light glowed like a small star, its energy shields more powerful than anything seen before. Enemy flagship detected, reported Humanity's Vengeance's sensor officer. Their power readings are off the charts. Wilson nodded. They built their ship to be perfect. We built ours to be tough. Let's see which works better. All batteries, open fire. The space between the ships erupted in violence. The Eternal Light fired beams of pure energy that could cut through mountains. Humanity's Vengeance responded with hundreds of rail gun rounds and missiles, shields holding at maximum. Axum's officers reported proudly. The human weapons exploded against the Eternal Light's defenses, unable to break through. But Wilson had expected this. Launch the tungsten rods, he ordered. Full acceleration. From Humanity's Vengeance's special launchers, dozens of simple metal rods shot out. Each one was accelerated to near light speed by the ship's most powerful engines. The elder races had forgotten one simple rule of physics. Anything with mass becomes a deadly weapon if it moves fast enough. The first rod hit the Eternal Light's shields like a small nuclear bomb. The second cracked them. By the fifth impact, alarms were screaming across the Elder flagship. Impossible. Axon shouted as his perfect shields began to fail. They're just metal sticks. Wilson watched calmly as his ship's main batteries fired again. Sometimes the simple answers are the best ones. All ships concentrate fire on their weak points. The Eternal Light tried to fight back. Its energy weapons left black scorch marks across humanity's Vengeance's armor, but the human ship had been built to take damage. It kept fighting at full strength, even as parts of its hull were burned away. Port side armor down to 40%. Wilson's damage control officer reported. But all weapons are still working. We can keep fighting. Axon watched in horror as his ship's shields finally collapsed under the constant bombardment. The Eternal Light's perfect systems had never been designed to take damage. Without its shields, it was vulnerable. Their ship is hurt but still fighting, an elder officer reported fearfully. How can they keep going with so much damage? The answer came in the form of another barrage from humanity's Vengeance. Railgun rounds tore through the Eternal Light's unprotected hull. Missiles found vital systems that had never needed protection before. All ships, Wilson broadcasted on an open channel. Attack pattern Delta. Show them why we build our ships to take hits and keep fighting. The human fleet moved in, their metal horrors proving that technology didn't need to be perfect to be effective. The Eternal Light, for all its power, began to break apart under their combined attack. As Axon ordered his crew to abandon ship, he finally understood. The humans hadn't built their ships to be beautiful or perfect. They had built them to survive anything space could throw at them. And in doing so, they had changed space warfare forever. 6 months after the Battle of Jupiter, the Elder Council chamber looked very different. Human representatives stood among the Elder races, and images of both elegant energy ships and sturdy metal vessels filled the display screens. Captain Wilson and Admiral Thomas represented Earth in the discussions about the galaxy's future. The old ways are over, First Elder Anton announced to the gathered representatives. We learned that there is no single path to the stars. The humans showed us this truth with their metal horrors. The UES Humanity's Vengeance floated in space near the Council Station, its battle scars now worn proudly. Engineers from both human and Elder races worked together, studying each other's technologies. The humans learned about energy manipulation, while the Elder races rediscovered the value of physical armor and kinetic weapons. Your ship surprised us, an Elder engineer told Wilson as they walked through humanity's Vengeance's corridors. We thought perfect shields were the answer to everything. We forgot that sometimes you need to be able to take a hit and keep fighting. Thomas watched from a viewing window as a new class of ships took shape in Earth's shipyards. They combined human armor and Elder energy technology, creating vessels that could both absorb damage and deflect it. The first of these ships would be called Unity, a symbol of what they had learned from each other. The galaxy has changed, Maya told the council. Humanity didn't just show us a different way to build ships. They showed us that progress doesn't always mean abandoning old ideas. Sometimes it means finding new ways to use them. In the space around Earth, Elder ships now trained alongside human vessels. The Elder races learned about using gravity for combat maneuvers, while human crews studied energy weapon systems. Both sides found they had much to teach each other. We built our metal horrors because we had to, Wilson explained to a group of Elder commanders. Space is dangerous. We couldn't afford to rely on a single type of defense, so we built our ships to survive anything. The Elder races began to modify their own ships, adding physical armor behind their energy shields. They learned from humanity's example, creating vessels that could continue fighting even when damaged. The age of perfect but fragile ships was over. Our greatest mistake, Anton admitted to Thomas, was thinking we had found all the answers. Your people reminded us that there are always new things to learn, even from old ideas. In Earth's cities, Elder race technology began to appear alongside human innovations. Energy shields protected buildings, while tough metal ships kept watch in the sky. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not by following the elder race's path, but by showing them a new one. The metal horrors will be remembered, Maya told the council, not as the primitive weapons we thought they were, but as the ships that changed our understanding of space warfare. They taught us that different doesn't mean wrong. Wilson stood on his ship's bridge one last time before accepting a new position as head of the Combined Fleet Training Program. The stars looked different now, full of new possibilities. Humanity had proven that there was more than one way to reach for the stars. We're building something new together, Thomas told the Combined Fleet commanders. Not just ships, but a new way of thinking. We're taking the best of both worlds, human durability and elder energy mastery. As the first joint patrol of human and elder ships moved out into deep space, everyone knew the galaxy would never be the same. The metal horrors had done more than win a war. They had broken thousands of years of technological stagnation. The stars waited ahead, full of new challenges and mysteries. But now the elder races and humanity would face them together, each bringing their own strengths to the journey. The age of the metal horrors had become the age of unity, proving that sometimes the best path forward is one that no one expected.